Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I want to welcome everybody. My name is Ryan West. I'm the Deputy Director with Iowa Workforce Development. We see some familiar names that have started to stroll through. I think we had close to 400 people register for this one. So that's a really good showing. And it's a really good opportunity, obviously, that's going to be provided with this grant. So I'm just kind of kicking this one off. And then you'll be in great hands with our Future Ready Iowa Coordinator, Kathy Leggett, and with our Registered Apprenticeship Coordinator, Amy Beller. And they're going to go through some real cool stuff and be able to answer questions. Undoubtedly, you'll have some that'll come up in here, and we'll try to work through those as quickly as we can. So we really look forward to you coming up with some innovative ways to put this to work. If the last 6 months have shown us anything, anything is possible. I never thought I'd see the day where Iowa Workforce Development staff would be able to work from home, and yet we've been doing it with the most historical levels of work of all time. So anything can be done. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy and Amy, and Kathy first, and we'll get started. And we're very happy to have you. Welcome. And here we go.
Thanks.
All right, here we go.
Hello, everyone. And thank you, Ryan. And yes, we're going to go through, if you have joined us before for one of these, it's going to be pretty similar. We have a lot of information to go through fairly quickly. We'll have time for questions and answers. I did want to say, give my chance to Amy Beller, to just say hello and introduce herself, because we both have some parts to share here. So Amy, can you say hello?
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amy Beller. I'm the Registered Apprenticeship Program Coordinator and worked with probably half of you already on some programs, and look forward to sharing some information today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amy. Okay, the other thing, a couple other announcements is I want to let you know that slides will be available. Those will be posted to the web page after the presentation is done. So you'll have access to those if there's information on there you want to refer to. This is also being recorded, and so that will be shared as soon as we have that ready to go. And you're welcome to share it with anyone who cannot join us. One thing I want to say is if you could type your questions into the chat as we go, that's how we'll access them. That way we can keep track of them. And I am sure you will come up with questions that we have not, that we don't know the answer to, because again, this came out quick and we're just trying to get everything done. So we welcome your questions. You'll help us think through things that we haven't, and then we will get back to you with those answers as soon as possible. So now I am going to share my screen and we will get going. Got to do that first, don't I? There we go. Share my screen. Okay. All right, we are ready. So, oops, why isn't my screen shared? Sorry, folks, just a minute.
Go back to, okay, go back to your Zoom right here.
Okay.
Yep, right there. And then click that. And then share screen. Oh, you want to say that. Yeah, screen right there. And then share. All right.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, all right, here we go. I just wanted to give you a quick goals for the day, what we're going to try and accomplish in this time that we have. I'm going to do a brief summary of recent unemployment data and Future Ready Iowa, because I know some of you are very familiar, but you have to bear with me because every time we do this, we may have somebody who's not familiar with Future Ready Iowa. And so I just want to give a little overview because all of these opportunities connect to that state goal. And then I will do overview of 2 coronavirus relief registered apprenticeship incentive funding options. There are 2 different grants available now. So they have a lot in common, but I'll go through that and then some of the specifics about each one of them. We will have Amy covered what is a registered apprenticeship program and the steps to create one, because I'm hoping we have some new folks on here who maybe have thought about it but haven't done it, or maybe heard of this opportunity and are considering it. So we want to give you the quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 about what that process looks like and the deadlines that go with this grant. And then talk about what resources and technical assistance are available to help you. Then have time for questions. So that is our goal. Now, I'm starting here with December unemployment because I want to bring you back to where we were when before coronavirus, just so you can get a quick look at what our unemployment rate in Iowa was and the number of folks who were considered unemployed. And just showing you this trend because you are aware that this is funding related to the coronavirus, and and we have to be focusing on individuals whose jobs have been disrupted, maybe they're gone, drastically changed due to the coronavirus. So we were here, and then back actually after it started in May, our 10% unemployment rate, and you can see the number of unemployed folks there in Iowa. Then in July, we were down to 6.6, so coming back down, but we still have plenty of Iowans who have had some challenges to their job and work history. And then August, here's where we are now, 6%. But again, you can see still lots of folks in those unemployment numbers and lots of job openings posted. So just a little review of that, again, since we're related to coronavirus. This is a document that just kind of shows you the profile of those who are unemployed here in Iowa right now. And then here are the 5 top industries making unemployment claims, folks from these industries making unemployment claims. So lots from accommodations and food services, manufacturing, healthcare, retail, and then the others you can see down there. So these are areas where we might be looking to offer opportunities to people to retrain in something or to get into a new career if needed. So just be thinking about that. My quick overview of Future Ready Iowa is that our goal is 70% of Iowans in the workforce have education and training beyond high school by 2025, have completed that. And you can see here, when this began, we had all stakeholders represented, and they worked together to figure out how we were going to reach this goal, and their strategies are what we work with through Future Ready Iowa. So a lot of input. And also, when I always share our goal, I always want to share a few reasons of why. Why do we need this goal? Why are we doing this work? Because by 2025, it's projected that 68% of the jobs in Iowa will require training beyond high school. So we need to prepare for that. Also, because in Iowa, we have a very huge skills gap in the jobs that require education and training up to a 2-year degree. 53% of our jobs in Iowa require that, but we only have around 34% of our workers with that training. So there's a gap that we need to fill. And then also because annually, when we survey employers in Iowa, they tell us over 50% say that they have applicants for their jobs, but those applicants lack the qualifications that they need. So how do we better coordinate education and employment so that we can meet all of these needs? And so just a reminder, 70% is our goal, and registered apprenticeship is a very high priority strategy under Future Ready Iowa. So this is a perfect tie. This tells us kind of how many Iowans we need to get more education and training for, and where are we now? Currently, we're at 60.2, and you can see where we have trade certificates, vocational training, associate's degree, undergraduate and postgraduate. All of those count toward our goal. All of those provide us with a really great continuum of opportunities that can meet anybody's wants and needs here in Iowa. So we really want to focus on those trade certificates with the registered apprenticeship. And so here we go into the funding. So basically, what is this? The Coronavirus Relief Registered Apprenticeship Incentive Program. It is a short-term funding opportunity to incentivize the creation of new registered apprenticeship programs and enhancement or expansion of current registered apprenticeship programs. Short-term being key. Because again, because this is funded from federal CARES Act money coming to the state of Iowa, we have to have it spent by December 31st. So another very short timeline. But Ryan alluded to this when he opened this session. We can do this, and so we just have to focus on how and working together, and we can use all this money and help a lot of Iowans. So the purpose, I'm not going to read all this, but you guys will have this for context. It's really to increase registered apprenticeship programs in Iowa and what you can use this money for. This money can be specifically used for equipment, tools, simulators, related training instruction materials, updated curriculum, or other necessary items to expand or create new registered apprenticeship programs. And special emphasis there to provide for online learning as well as hands-on when necessary and safe. Because again, remember, we want to, these all funds need to be related to coronavirus. So if you need to do things to update your current registered apprenticeship so that you can do more virtual online training, that's something that you want to consider. Same thing with establishing new ones, is how are you going to be able to do this? Meeting all the safety guidelines and moving forward to provide quality training. This is just some more information, and this information is actually in the notice of funding, which I'll talk about in a minute. So, but here is the intent. It's to increase registered apprenticeship programs in 5 different categories. And then the second focus, so we're increasing those opportunities, is expanding the opportunities for Iowans whose employment has been affected by or eliminated because of the coronavirus pandemic, including low-skilled workers who are veterans, returning citizens, members of underrepresented communities, minorities, women, Iowans with disabilities, or other low-income Iowans. So those are the 2 main focuses: expanding registered apprenticeship opportunities to this particular group of Iowans. Important dates. The grant application is open now in iowagrants.gov, and it will close on Monday, October 12th at 11:59 p.m. And then awards will be made. You'll be notified by October 19th if you received an award. These funds have to be spent by December 31st. And then programming finished, and what I mean by that, we'll explain a little bit later, but where do you need to be in the registered apprenticeship process by February 28th, 2021. Okay, how much money is available? 10 million total, and again, this money comes from the Federal CARES Act, and that's why we have short timeline, that's why we have specific goals and things that we need to follow with it. There are 2 distinct grant opportunities. 5 million for each grant. One is focused on high schools, nonprofits, and small businesses, which a small business is defined as less than 50 employees. And a second one is focused on post-secondary institutions and healthcare employers. Money up front. This money will come up front once an MOU is signed and the funds are requested. You get the money, then you purchase the items that were approved in your grant, and the receipts and documentation for that then needs to be sent to IWD so that we know that the funds were spent in accordance with what was approved in your grant. So that's how that process will work. And again, the funds have to be spent before the end of December. So a little more specifics here, just to try and make it not confusing, hopefully. Opportunity 1. High schools, nonprofits, and small businesses. Again, small business is less than 50 employees. So this is who can apply for the first opportunity. And how much they can apply for is up to $50,000 for that equipment, those simulators or whatever they might need to start a registered apprenticeship program or to enhance the program, a current program. So that's opportunity number 1, those 3 organizations. And I do want to make a clarification because I've had a couple questions. High schools, any Iowa high school that's in good standing can make an application. I think there was some confusion with the press release where they thought high schools had to have under 50 employees, and that is not the case. Those are 3 separate things. So Iowa high schools, nonprofit organizations, or small businesses with less than 50 employees. And you can apply for up to $50,000. Opportunity 2 is aimed at post-secondary institutions and healthcare employers who can apply. That's who can apply for the second opportunity. They can apply for up to $250,000. So those are the 2 distinct grant opportunities. And here are some definitions, I just put up there so you could see that we have those. These again are also in the notice of funding opportunity. And I think most you can take a look at those. Healthcare employer primarily, that's defined as employer who's primarily more than 50% engaged in providing direct healthcare services to patients. So that's a little clarity for you on the employer, healthcare employer. Okay, what do you do to apply? Oh, so we're still okay, right? Sorry, I had something switched here. Okay, so to apply, here's what you do. You can do it at iowagrants.gov. And I know many of you already have accounts set up there. That's where you're going to have to make your application through iowagrants.gov. Now, you can find all the application materials and information at this Future Ready Iowa website as well. And there's also a link to iowagrants.gov at this Future Ready Iowa website. And I'll show you a little bit more about what's there so you can see. So here, if you go to that website, this is what you're going to see. And you will see the two different grant opportunities. This one only shows the first one, the grant opportunity available to high schools, nonprofit, and small businesses. And then below it, you will see the grant opportunity available to post-secondary institutions and healthcare employers. And then in each of those things, there are links to all of the materials that I'm going to show you here. So we'll go through that. These appendixes, all of these will be linked right there. So A is kind of your basic grant guidance. It tells you, basically the information you need to put in at iowagrants.gov. Appendix B has frequently asked questions. And we will continue to update those, but just some basic information. So you want to review that because that may answer some questions if you're just getting started. Appendix C is the scoring rubric. You definitely want to take that, print it out, and use that as you're filling out your application in iowagrants.gov, because that's going to show you how things are going to be scored. And so that'll be a good friend to you. Appendix D, if you have never gone into iowagrants.gov, that's going to give you specific directions about how you register. And otherwise, actually, I think that registering on iowagrants.gov is pretty intuitive. I mean, I think the directions are pretty good. If you just go to iowagrants.gov and click on new register or to new, whatever it's the new one, not the returning. And then it'll kind of take you through that. And it's really quite simple and does not take very long. And then Appendix E is a budget spreadsheet, which will have to be attached to your application. So this just quickly wanted to give you an idea of what these look like. And so if you go to the website, these are also included as attachments in iowagrants.gov when you click on the funding opportunity. So you can get these a couple ways, and you can always email me for something if you can't find it. So this is your basic information. As I said, Appendix B is your FAQ. Appendix C, I wanted to show you what this scoring sheet basically looks like. It tells you the categories that will be scored and the number of points that could be awarded for those categories. One thing I want to point out is that there will be additional points if the registered apprenticeship being created is related to a high demand job in Iowa. That's not a requirement for this funding, so just know that. But if it is related to a high demand job, that gets a bonus of 5 points. And then also more points will be awarded for the creation of a new registered apprenticeship than the enhancement or expansion of an existing one. Again, we want both, but just a little extra incentive for the creation of new opportunities like that. So Appendix D, I just wanted to show you what this looks like. Here's your directions to getting an account set up in iowagrants.gov. And then Appendix E, this was for an old grant, so this isn't exactly the one that you will see, but this just shows you what Appendix E is going to look like and that you're going to fill out and attach to your grant in iowagrants.gov. When you go in, I just wanted to put these up, so if you're new to this, you can kind of see what things will look like. Again, this was a previous grant, but I'm just showing you so you can kind of recognize, oh yeah, that looks familiar, I'm in the right place. And then in the grant itself, we'll give you different sections to fill out, and you click on those, you can save, you can go back to it and keep working. So I just, again, wanted to give you something to be a little bit familiar with if you're new to this process. And so I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to turn it over to Amy to talk about the registered apprenticeship. And then I have some summary information once Amy's finished, and then we'll definitely get to questions. So Amy?
Yep, thank you so much, Kathy. So we're going to go over the 5 components of a registered apprenticeship program for those of you who may be new to registered apprenticeship. So we make sure that everybody's on the same page when we're talking about what goes into a registered apprenticeship program. So registered apprenticeship has 5 different components. The first component is the employer. The employer is integral to having this whole program be completed, to be shaped, and to be molded into the workers for tomorrow. The employer provides the paid on-the-job learning, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, and they actually help design the program's outlines. So when I say programs outlines, we mean the standards of apprenticeship. It is the directional outline of what that program will look like for the entire course of the program. The employer is the one, if you are applying for a high school registered apprenticeship program, you are in direct connection with local employers that will provide the on-the-job learning and will pay those apprentices that are hired. So it's a little different within high school, but that employer is still number one and needs to be at the table and creating the program for their workforce of tomorrow. The second component is structured paid on-the-job training or on-the-job learning. You might hear it be called OJT, but it's that paid on-the-job learning. The learning occurs at this portion of the program. About 80% of the tasks learned is through on-the-job training. It is a minimum of 2,000 hours every year, and that is set by the U.S. Department of Labor with the actual Code of Federal Regulations approved by Congress and signed by the President long time ago. So 2,000 hours actually equates to 40 hours of work a week for 50 weeks a year. So there is some structure in there for having vacations and time off. When we're looking at high school programs, for those new high schools that may be on the call, that structure is just a little bit different about the hours, and we will help you navigate those hours of the OJT when you are creating your program. Underneath the OJT, it's structured, so it has the different components of that plan that I mentioned before, the standard of apprenticeship, that has those plans and those tasks marked down exactly what the apprentice will learn and when will they learn it in the course of their program. The OJT is also supervised. You have that one-to-one mentor. Sometimes that mentor can be 2-to-1, but it all depends on the occupation. That structured and supervised creates that 80% of the learning to make sure that that apprentice is learning exactly how to do the task for that given occupation, and they are safe. The third component is, it says job-related education instruction, but it also is referred to related training instruction within your standard of apprenticeship. That is that education-focused portion of the program. Again, OJT was at 80% of the program. Related training is about 20% of the program. So those classes that individuals take, those registered apprentices take, are directly related to the occupation at hand. So if you are an electrician and you are going to be in your first year taking electrical 101, you're not going to be taking art history in that first year. It is directly related to the OJT components and what that occupation is asking you to do. The related training instruction can be provided in-house, so by the employer. It can be provided by the local community college. It could be provided by a 4-year institution. It could be provided online or by correspondence base. So under COVID, there's really a lot of flexibility of how you will do that related training instruction providing. On the hours of the related training instruction is 144 hours that's recommended every year. So you can do what's called front loading your education. That means that you're doing all your education before you do your OJT. In some cases, in high schools, and within IT and healthcare, we are seeing that being utilized more and more because you want to have that good basics of the classroom component before you get them, get the apprentices to go actually learn on the job. And this is also a way that you can actually create your program during COVID, because some of those on the job learning tasks you may want to wait to see if what happens with COVID. So having your OJ or your related training instruction up front can help minimize that risk of being in the same working environment. As I mentioned before, you can do 3 different ways of putting your related training instruction provided together. First is that front loaded. That means education up front, then OJT after it's completed. Parallel, you can do it at the same time. So OJT during the day and related training instruction either during the afternoon or evening time. Or you can do it a segmented option. That means going to your on-the-job learning for 3 weeks of a month, and then you do your classroom component for another week, or however you want to structure. Again, the employer being involved is integral to tell us how they'd like to structure that. Rewards for skills gained is the next component. That means that the registered apprentice gets paid from day one. They are a full-time employee of that registered apprenticeship program or that employer from day one. They have to make at least minimum wage. Most programs pay well above minimum wage, but they have to pay for minimum wage, and they have to give at least 1 wage increase during the time of their program. And this could be that when they're getting done with certain components, it could be done halfway during the program. Again, it's right back to that employer telling us how they want to design the program and what works for the apprentices that have been registered. Just as long as that wage requirement is consistent across the board with each registered apprentice, the Department of Labor and Iowa Works business marketing specialist will not tell you how much to pay the individual. We will only give you market related data if you need it. The 5th component is the last component of a registered apprenticeship program that sets registered apprenticeship aside from other work-based learning initiatives. And this is what goes right into the Future Ready Iowa initiative of that 70%. Each individual who completes a registered apprenticeship program gets a national recognized credential showing that they have proficiency in a given occupation. That shows that that apprentice understands and knows all the knowledge, skills, and abilities of that given occupation. This occupation can be taken to another state. In some cases for skilled workers or skilled trades, they can get state licensing of that given occupation, or they can possibly take it to the local community college and get additional credits for their associate's degree. So if we want to go into the next slide. Okay, so now you know the 5 components. So where do you go from here? Some of you may have already done all these steps and have a program already registered. Some of you might be starting off brand new and need help. So what we are here to do is we're here to make this as easy as possible. We know the 5 components. We know how to create a program. We want to help you create it what's best for your employees and what's best for your employer or your students in a high school setting. So step 1, we've created these steps in a question and answer base. So if you say no to that, you're still on that step. So step 1 is, have you contacted your local Iowa Works business marketing specialist through our Earn and Learn iowa.gov/COVID-RA grants to schedule an introductory meeting? This is going to be your first step, and I would love to see hundreds and hundreds of businesses contacting us today to get in contact with our business marketing specialist to talk to you about how to set up your program and if it will work for your given occupation and your given company. Step 2, have you met with your Iowa Works business marketing specialist to talk about your company or your high school's goal in starting that RA program? So have you had that meeting to discuss kind of how you see the program laying out, how the business marketing specialist can help you design that program? Step 3 in the process is developing the on-the-job learning and that classroom component of the registered apprenticeship program with the BMS. We have outlines to share for every occupation that is apprenticeable. So it's not that you're recreating the horse every time. We are able to provide you with that resource and say, what do you want to edit from here? And if you are a high school program or an intermediary program, so you have businesses that are going to be underneath your program, do you have at least one committed employer ready to sign on to your program to be that individual to give the on-the-job learning task? Step 4, has your program been referred to the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship for draft standards of apprenticeship to be created? So when we work through with our Iowa Workforce Business Marketing Specialist, we help you go through all the components of the program. We do all the hard lifting, and then we send a few-page document over to Office of Apprenticeship, who is the administrating body of Registered Apprenticeship in the state of Iowa. They create what's called the Standards of Apprenticeship, or your outline for your program. That Standards of Apprenticeship just needs to be signed once you agree with the standards, and it gets sent back to U.S. Department of Labor. So they send you that draft, and that draft constitutes that needs to be done underneath this funding opportunity by December 31st of 2020. So if you are somewhere in step 1 through 3 right now, you have to get to step 4 and complete step 4 by December 31st of 2020 underneath this grant initiative. The next step, step 5, if you want to advance the slide, is have you signed your standards of apprenticeship and are you officially registered with the U.S. Department of Labor? That step 4 and step 5 should be, most of the time is days or hours in between. So you don't have to do a lot of work once you get that standards of apprenticeship. You just sign, submit, return, and you have an official registered apprenticeship program. Step 6, you have to enroll at least one registered apprentice within your company, within your program by February 28th, 2021, and you have to have your program registered by February 28th, 2021. If you need help finding apprentices, we have some great contacts at our Iowa Works office. We have RA, or Registered Apprenticeship career planners, that can help you design exactly what you're needing, and we can recruit for individuals for you for your program. So we can take that that step away, and we can give you all the candidates, and you can hire them or interview them and see if you would like to actually go through with the individuals that we have recommended. We have hundreds of people that are waiting for registered apprenticeship programs right now. I know when I say hundreds, I mean hundreds, because we have a lot of people that are interested. It's just that they're not finding that correct occupation in their specific region of the state. So again, to wrap up, step 5 and 6, getting your standards officially registered and having at least one apprentice registered in your program and going through that program needs to be done before February 28th of 2021. And we will help you if you need help with that apprentice. Turning back over to Kathy for more information.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, okay, awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Amy. Really great information. So a few key points I wanted to follow up after Amy's presentation with before we get to your questions is 2. If you're wanting to move forward with this opportunity, register on iowagrants.gov if you do not have an account. I would encourage you to do that soon so that you can get your account set up. Again, it doesn't take long, but this is the way you have to submit your grant. We cannot accept grants that are emailed to me or anyone else. It has to go through iowagrants.gov. And so just get this set up, then you know you're in, and whenever you get around to filling in the rest of the application, that's great. Request a contact, just that as Amy went over. And so I just posted that up there again as soon as possible. If this is something new to you, you want to get that scheduled, and we are prepared and ready to help everyone. So we have a system set up. So if you can go through that and get registered, then you'll get connected with somebody who can help you. Also important in this process is that High schools have to, who want to start registered apprenticeships need to go one way, other organizations, so we're ready. So just please do that as soon as possible. I already talked about the online submission, and then just again want to refer you to the notice of funding, the grant guidance, the scoring rubric. All of those are on our website, and they're all also in iowagrants.gov for you to use to prepare your application. A couple other things is just to refer again, as Amy hit those, you will need to meet certain key timelines in the Registered Apprenticeship Program process for this grant, and we'll want a timeline, your estimated timeline in your grant application. High schools, nonprofits, post-secondary institutions must have a committed employer partner. So just making sure we highlight that again, and that 2 attachments will have to be part of your application: letters of commitment and Appendix E, which is the budget. Those are going to, and there's a place in iowagrants.gov where you attach those. So just making sure to mention that those are 2 things that you need to have as part of your application. So with that, I think we're ready to go to questions, and we have quite a few here. So I'm going to go ahead and read and answer if I can. Amy, I'll just invite you to jump in on any that are in your wheelhouse. And for the ones we can't answer, as I shared before, we have all of these saved, and so we'll get answers, we'll get it through a process, and we'll get these posted online and shared with everyone. So so thanks for submitting, and let's go with that. Okay, I'll read them. Number 1 is, I'm a small business owner, TSB certified. My business is a healthcare company. Which grant should I apply for? So I think that it depends on what criteria you meet. Healthcare as defined. So if you have 50%, I think it's more than 50% of what you're doing is direct service to clients and patients, then that's an opportunity for you. If you're a small business owner with 50 or less employees, then you could do that one. The thing you would have to weigh is, if you meet both of those, is how much money do you need to start your registered apprenticeship? Because the healthcare ones can apply for up to $250,000. The small businesses up to $50,000. So so I think you want to look at those definitions and see where you fit. Next one. Let's see, how does this grant program affect the normal grant funds available in starting a new apprenticeship program? So I think that, Amy, you might jump in here, but I think that one of those is 15C, the up to $25,000 that came out with Future Ready Iowa a couple of years ago. And are there others, Amy, that you want to mention?
So there's 15B and 15C under Iowa Economic Development Authority that is a yearly registration process. And then there are state expansion grant and apprenticeship state expansion grant funds that some of you have received. You cannot get reimbursed for the same exact activities that you have been reimbursed under one or the other grants. So you can only get reimbursed under this specific Corona Relief Fund for projects that are tools and equipment that haven't been purchased before.
Yep, so exactly that. And so the only kind of example I can think of, or one, is like, if you were in the category of let's say a nonprofit, and you applied for the up to 50,000, but you were in a high demand career, because 15C has to be a high demand career on their list. Then if you weren't able to cover all of your starting expenses, then it seems that you could be able to apply for additional things that weren't covered in this grant from that one. So that's just a little bit of an example, I think. Okay, next question. Let's see here. Does a nonprofit have to be a 501c3? I guess I will have to check with legal on that. So let me check on that, and I will post an answer. Next one, can a high school apply and partner with an employee? Yes, the answer is yes. The partner with the high school or the post-secondary institution or nonprofit does not have to have less than 50 employees. So next question. How do we create the registered apprenticeship? Hopefully Amy answered a lot of those questions. And so what I would say is, the first thing you need to do is go onto that at Iowa Earn and Learn website and register to meet with a business marketing specialist, and they'll contact you because they'll help you through all of those steps. Next question. That's okay, thank you. Let's see. What if you are a healthcare nonprofit organization? I think that the same is you have to look at the definitions, see where you fit, and then decide which application or which one is best suited for you. And we can help discuss that. I can provide, if you have specific questions after this, feel free to email me. My email is on the website and on the presentation, and I can help with any specific questions that you have, and I can also help with technical assistance. As long as you recognize that that does not mean you're going to get funded. I can give you help, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get funded. So if you want to discuss something, just please reach out to me via email or give me a phone call. Next question: is a small business defined by the location? But is a small with 50 employees or the business as a whole? That's a really great question, and I don't know the answer. So we're gonna have to check on that one. So thanks for sharing that. Next question. Can we order prior to December 31st, but we often don't pay until delivery? My best advice, and if I learn something else, I'll share it with you. My best advice on this is that you have to be creative and find a way to pay for it. Because what I can tell you is this money has to be out the door for whatever it's going to be paid for by the end of December, or else it gets returned to the federal government. So, so we had a grant earlier, an innovation grant related to coronavirus, and people are just working on how creative can they be to work with companies to prepay, because that's what's going to have to happen. Next question. Do items purchased need to be received by 12/31/20, or do we just need to show proof of purchase before? To my knowledge, you have to show proof of purchase. You know, I think if hopefully the goal is that you have them, and I will check on that for sure, because I don't want to give you wrong guidance, but what we will need at IWD is all of your documentation and receipts that you have spent the money in the way you have accordance with your MOU and your grant, whatever got approved. Next, let's see. Oh, which source will be used to determine whether high occupation is high demand? There are several, and you can link it to the Future Ready Iowa high demand list for last dollar scholarships. You can link it to your regional LMI data. You can use data local to your community to justify it. You would just have to use whatever data is relevant to that to tell the reviewers why this is a high demand occupation. There's not one list, but you do have to do something to justify why this is a high demand occupation. Okay, here's if we are using a nationally accredited program that provides a certification for our workforce, would the cost per participant be the kind of expense this grant would cover? I'm going to say no. Amy, do you have an opinion on that?
So yeah, it wouldn't be on this one because you're not updating curriculum. We do have other funding sources that we could possibly utilize for this specific question. So whoever asked that question, my email will be on the screen next, that you can send me an email and I can walk you through a different funding source.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm not sure how, the way I read this too was I'm not sure that this is actually a registered apprenticeship. It may be a program they're doing. So these funds are related to programs that have already gone through that process or go through the process that we detailed a little bit ago. So, okay, next question is, can an institution have more than one apprentice? More than one registered apprentice? Yes. Yes, we just need you to have one by the end of February so we know your program's getting started. Next question, are these grants limited to one per organization, or can an organization apply for one grant to enhance an existing program and another grant to create a new one? That is a great question, and I do not know the answer to that. So that's what I'm going to have to check on.
So I would add too, underneath the U.S. Department of Labor, you do not create a new program when you already have one registered. It's just expanding your occupation. So we can talk about it more, but it wouldn't be a secondary program that's created. It's just expanding the occupation.
Occupation. Okay, good. Thank you, Amy. Yep, thanks so much. Okay, let's see what's next. Job-related instruction with practical training that leads to a national occupational credential counts. Does it count? Do you want to, can you answer that one, Amy? Or?
So it depends on what you put together in your OJT and RTI outline, because your OJT actually in RTI in a registered apprenticeship program does lead to a national occupational credential. So if we put it in together in the confines of what we're looking at for registered apprenticeship, according to the regulations, then that program would count underneath this. But if you're looking at a different credential and you're not going to be going through the requirements of a registered apprenticeship program, then it would not count.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Let's see here. Can a CNA apply for a grant to further their education? This grant is not something that you apply for as an individual. So the organizations that we mentioned are the ones that are eligible to apply. High schools, post-secondary institutions, healthcare employers, small businesses with under 50 employees, and nonprofit organizations.
I can add to that one too.
Sure.
What you can do is if you want to further your CNA's education and create an apprenticeship ladder, so you're looking at creating another occupation that is in the healthcare industry, like I'm thinking, I'm not sure if you'd go from a CNA to a CMA, but maybe you'd go to a med tech or a surgical tech or another occupation that is apprenticeable. You could theoretically apply underneath that expansion of your program to create additional occupations that CNA can go to start another apprenticeship program.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Do occupations for this grant have to be on the high demand list or is it any apprenticeshipable? Yeah, so no, it does not have to be on that specific high demand list. I think earlier I kind of talked about the ways that you can justify that, but let me know if you have questions. But so yes, it can be any apprenticeshipable occupation, and we highly encourage that. We want to expand apprenticeships into all kinds of great job opportunities. It's just because the focus on high demand jobs, that will give you a few more points. That doesn't mean that you would not be funded or anything. So yes, you can do another occupation. Next question. Let's see. Can you show the slide again that lists who the target participants are? I think dislocated worker was one cohort. Yeah. Yes, I can go back to that slide and I'll put that up. Let's see. Hang on. Sorry, folks. Let me. There, expanding opportunities for Iowans whose employment have been affected. So you can go ahead and I'll leave that up for right now. So next question. Got about 10 minutes, so we're going to try and get through as many as we can. What happens if your job can be somewhat seasonal? How does that affect the February 28th deadline? Amy?
Yep.
Do you have a thought on that?
Yep. So with some of those seasonal positions, a registered apprenticeship program would have to be a year-round position. So we would have to be looking at working with the employer to say what would they be doing the other weeks of the year that would be non-seasonal, because we do want those positions, and most apprenticeable or all the apprenticeable occupations that we have right now are full-time occupations. So we would have to work with you directly to see what you are talking about, because we would definitely need to have an apprentice and your program registered by February 28th.
Okay, can you give an example of small business apprenticeship with person and match to budget process and funding with a person.
So we could, like a small business, occupation, well, it depends on what small business or what industry you're in, but most businesses may have like an office manager. So an office manager is an apprenticeable occupation that you could utilize. What tools would that person or what equipment you would purchase underneath that grant? I know it's probably not the best example, but I'm not sure what tools they would need. And maybe it's more of that curriculum that you're going to be redesigning or purchasing for that apprenticeship program.
Yeah, that's a good example. Another one that somebody already shared with me was a small, and this probably could go under healthcare, so it's again not the greatest example, but it was a small dental office, and they would be purchasing the same equipment to do training that they use in their dental office, and that would be what their partner, who was providing the registered apprentices might use to train on. So, okay, let's keep going. Let's see. Do you have a list of eligible jobs / careers that are targeted need areas for Iowa? Yes. Yes. So
that is actually something that the business marketing specialist can provide to you in your
Perfect.
first initial meeting, and give you actual area or regional focus too, not just targeted in Iowa, but targeted to where you're at.
Perfect. Can an employer with 300 employees apply for the grant? Only if they're a healthcare employer can they apply. And correct me, Amy, I'm just thinking through this, but I think if they're a healthcare employer right now they could be a partner with a high school or a nonprofit or a post-secondary institution and be part of it, but they would not be the applicant.
Correct. Unless that is the healthcare or the
Yeah.
post-secondary education, educational institution.
So, yep. Okay. As an employer, we continue to work with an already established registered apprenticeship. Can we? Yes. Or is the sole purpose for creating new? No, you can enhance or expand your current apprenticeship if there are things you need to better serve your registered apprentices because of COVID, like more virtual training or things like that, then that would be a possibility. So yes, it does not have to be a new occupation. Would Truck Country's registered apprenticeship program qualify as a post-secondary qualifier?
They would not. Truck Country is a business and not a post-secondary institution.
Thank you. If a business has already had an initial meeting with the business marketing specialist or was in the process of developing when COVID hit, can they pick up where they left off? I would think yes, Amy.
Definitely, yep. Definitely. We keep all of our notes and I bet that business marketing specialist will remember exactly where you guys left off.
What is defined as healthcare, nursing, and medicine, or is also cleaning included? That's a great question. I think I will have to check on that for sure. So let me check on that and share back answers as soon as I can. Purchasing equipment for public institutions has to follow a procurement process. Can the equipment be ordered and funds obligated? Would this meet the spending, the 1230 spend requirement? I think, as I mentioned before, to my knowledge, and there is no leeway that we have to spend the money before December 31st. So working with organizations who you may be procuring equipment from, or those type of things, and finding ways that we can do this, because if we don't use the funds, they have to be returned to IWD and then they go back to the federal government. So I am not, if something else changes, I can let you know, but I'm not aware of any way to do that.
Kathy, I would just include on that, from previous federal grant experiences and federal spending, you cannot be under the federal or your procurement process at the time. It has to be obligated and it has to be purchased. Maybe you haven't received it yet, but it has to have that purchase agreement in order for you to have it fall underneath that December 31st spend down.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next. Any allowance for administration costs, 5% or less. What grant can a current multi-employer apply for?
I'm going to pose the question and somebody can answer it in the chat. Whoever asked that question, are you talking about an intermediary as the multi-employer? Because if you're talking about the intermediary applying, I believe they would have to fall under one of the 5 areas that this grant is open for. So you have to be a healthcare institution, a higher education, healthcare business, higher education institution, or a high school registered apprenticeship program.
Thank you. Next, let's see. Additional equipment may be on back order or take up to 60 to 90 days. Is that a problem?
Yes.
I don't, go Amy.
Yep, sorry. That is
Oh,
a problem. That is a problem for the federal side. They're not really watching the 60 to 90 days being on back order. They want to have you spent the money by December 31st.
Yeah, so the money has to be spent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for new apprenticeship programs, can approvals from DOL come after 1/1/21? Amy, I'm going to let you take that one.
So with the new apprenticeship programs, the only thing that we want to see is that you have a draft standards of apprenticeship. So you have that draft outline that you're reviewing before 31st of December. You can actually sign on the dotted line of your standards of apprenticeship after the 31st, but it has to occur by February 28th, 2021.
Thank you. Okay, next. What is the timeline for performance on enrollment in existing and new apprenticeship programs? What is the reporting period? I'm going to take a stab here, Amy, and because basically you need to have one new registered apprentice enrolled, and the goal is from the coronavirus group or those that target group that we want. So one new enrolled by February 28th. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and there's no reporting, like some of you are subrecipients of other federal grants. There's not a quarterly report that you have to do on a quarterly basis. Kathy, do you want to tell them what reporting they have to provide?
Yes, reporting that will have to be, well before, and we'll have a specific date, but before the end of December, you will have to have your documentation, your receipts and your documentation showing how you spent the money and that it was in accordance with what you were, was in your proposal and approved. That will have to be to IWD, because if you did not spend all the money that you received, you're going to have to return what you didn't spend. And then as far as progress reporting, and I'm going to say it's probably going to be within 30 days of, so by the end of March, we'll need to just have a final report on you know, everything that you did and how it's going. I also have to figure out, so, you know, we'll probably be checking in because we need you to meet those deadlines of February 28th. So at some point there will be some type of reporting as to where you are in that process. So that's what I can tell you right now. It's not inundating reporting. It's not huge, but those type of things will have to be shared. So, okay, I know that we are running out of time. And so I'll, go as fast. Will applicants know if they have been awarded the grant before the deadline? Yeah, you'll know the deadline, and I think is the, 19th is. No, you will know. There we go.
By the 19th of October.
To submit the grant is the 12th, and you will know by the end of the day on the 19th if you were awarded. So yes. It's in the, okay, would this grant be able to be used in a combination of high school community college for an education-based apprenticeship with the goal of exposing high school students? Amy, what are your thoughts on this?
So the teaching field is really difficult because we only have a few apprenticeable occupations that are acceptable for the U.S. Department of Labor. Right now, teacher's aide is the only apprenticeable occupation that we currently have registered, along with an agriculture teacher. What we could do is talk to you about creating a new occupation if you're looking at that, but I think it could be utilized. That would be a good combination of high schools and that that post-secondary education. So we'd like to see, yeah, I think that you could do that, but we just have to look at what occupation you're looking at creating. Because if we create a new occupation, it's going to take several months to get that completed. So you'd have to actually register an apprenticeable occupation before February 28th. Of next year, which would probably be that teacher's aide or the agricultural teacher one.
Thank you. Next question was, what is a post-secondary institution? So I pulled this back up, just has definitions on here, and you'll find these definitions in the notice of funding that is on our website as well, so you can refer to those. And then I'm going to go to our last slide and put my information up there and Amy's up there, because I know we are out of time, and so I want you to have our email addresses, and you can send us specific questions and we'll answer them. And then any other questions that were on and requested, we'll do on a question. We'll add to the question document that we're going to post as you know, probably as soon as I have answers for the rest of them. And also check out the FAQ, because if you haven't looked at that, you may have an answer to your question there. But feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Again, we know this is a short time frame, but we are ready and posed to help as much as we can. And I just want to say thanks to Amy for your great presentation and sharing and for all of your help. And thanks to all of you guys for tuning in and looking at this opportunity. And again, just we're here to help. Let us know if there's anything we can do. So thanks so much. And I think we need to say goodbye. All right. Thanks, everybody.